going to work there? There we go. Yeah. Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I was telling people earlier that you can go online and you can watch people turn finials in 3 minutes. So if we're going to do this for 1 hour, you do have 57 minutes where you're going to have to just sit there, imagine other things. So, no, there's so much information out there on finials. But I guess what I'd like to do is I want to just start off. I'm going to go with my script because I find that I start babbling on too much if I'm just given free rein. So you guys be here till midnight. So what I want to look at is why finials, why it's a worthwhile project to look at. I want to talk about the very best people in the finial kind of industry or world. Talk about safety, finial design, the anatomy of finials, sharpening your tools, chucking and holding your work, and then we'll get on to turning and touch on sanding. And before I start, there's only one thing worse than sanding, and that's watching somebody sand. So I'm not going to be doing much sanding, but I just brought this to show you. Yeah, we'll get into that a little later on. But so first of all, why finials? One thing, it's a really cheap way to learn your tool control because you're not using up a whole lot of material. You're not risking a 14-inch bowl to get your body movement correct. So it's inexpensive, and they're very versatile. Like you may think, oh, well, why? But I've got a few things here. I'm not going to have. This is a finial that I've done for. I won't do that, but just for a lidded box that's pierced. So it's super light. So if you want to look at it later on. Come on up and take a look. But it's just one style of finial that I appreciate. I like this style, which is the ball and a stem, and then truncated. Doesn't work so good for a Christmas ornament. Obviously wouldn't work for this. But this is basically a finial project right here, but just extended to do a little goblet with a long stem on it. So. And looking at this, so there is Cindy Drozda is the top person in the finial world. Like it is, in my opinion. There might be others out there, but her design, her techniques. If you follow or if you look at her stuff online or DVDs or whatever. She is super talented and she's really focused on getting it looking right. The other person who's quite well known for finials is Ashley Harwood, but Ashley, I don't buy into her designs because she does really quite long stems. So she does lots of sea urchins with long finials, but when you do long, you end up with straight faces, and that can like straight lines, and that can really take away from your design. And one of the hardest things that for a turner is to go from a straight line into a gentle curve. Like it's really tough to make that transition without having to work back from your gentle curve into your straight line, and all of a sudden you've got a divot in there. And I would really recommend you stay away from straight lines when you're doing finials. I'll pass a couple of these, I'll pass these around. Just so finials can be used as box tops. They can use as goblets, but just for Christmas tree ornaments. And these were done well before I decided that maybe I'm not going to hand this one around because it's only got maybe 2 millimeters of life. But this one is one solid piece. Don't really know how I did that, but the rest of these are hollow balls with they're three-part Christmas ornaments. But this one's, if you want to look at it later, but it's down to 2 millimeters, and I'd hate to have somebody feel bad that they broke it. If I broke it, it wasn't wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'd hate to put that on somebody else. So we talked about Y finials, the best people. So as far as safety, before I get started here, we all know about protecting our eyes and our lungs. How many of you turn with respirators or a hood that's a forced air hood? Yeah, yeah. It's so important to look after your lungs. Speaking of which, I just this presentation is brought to you by Fisherman's Friends. I should have invested in stocks in that company a month ago. I'd be probably quite well off now. So, glasses, face shields, whatever you need for protecting your eyes is hugely important. And in the case of what's it called, a RUD, a rapid unscheduled disassembly, where something blows up. I think that's what they're called. They're called RUDs, and it can happen. And protecting your face, like particularly starting out, I would absolutely say face shields are a must for sure. Tonight I'm just going to use safety glasses just so you can, so I can talk. But protecting your lungs, protecting your fingers, your face. The one thing I think as turners we don't focus enough on is protecting ourselves from chemicals. I used to paint cars for a living, and this was back in the 80s when safety wasn't all that big of a deal. And so we used to wash our hands in thinner just daily, or like 3 times a day you'd wash your hands. And I still remember sitting being rushed into the Saskatoon hospital by an ambulance, and I bet you I spent 6 hours trying to convince an intern, this young doctor, that I was not a binge drinker. Because he says, no, your liver is a binge drinker. He would just not, and he would come back every 20 minutes and try to get me to crack it and say I was a binge drinker. It was just from washing my hands in lacquer thinner. But so protecting yourself from chemicals. For example, CA glue. That's not friendly stuff. It's not good for your body. If you read anything that says use in a well-ventilated space, that is their legal get-out-of-jail-free card, which basically means do not inhale these fumes. If it says use in a well-ventilated place, and I think as turners and finishers and stuff, we just, there's enough air in here, I can live with this. But you don't have a foot to stand on. If you end up in court and they find out you use that in an enclosed shop with no air moving through or whatever, you're on your own. So just be mindful of that. So on to, any questions about, yeah?
That would, on those fumes, that's a cumulative effect as well on your body, because
yeah.
gain some of those.
Yeah, well, yeah, that sticks into all your vital organs, and it does not flush out. And I've had to quit using CA glue entirely in my practice. I can't. Yeah.
When it comes to the wood dust, are N95 masks good enough?
Well, they're better than nothing. Yeah. I would say, like for years, I turned with an N95. I use a respirator now with removable or replaceable filters, and I went to the step of going to get a fit test done on a respirator. So you just go to a safety station and they'll test, does this have leaks or whatever. If you've invested, thousands of dollars in your lathe and your tools, and then, take shortcuts with your health, and then all of a sudden you can't do it anymore, you're not going to be very pleased. So, like, I just really don't cut corners when it comes to safety, for sure. And the same thing, I don't want to rain on Kensburg. Cran's got some wonderful spalted lumber that some people, do you still have some left?
Yeah, it's in the back of my truck if anyone wants a piece there. Most of them are about 10 inches long and 7-inch diameter. You're welcome to.
But, Yeah, and I put my name on the list to get one of those
Yeah.
pieces as well. But what I wanted to point out is the turning spalted wood can be really hard on your health too. Right? I mean, if your toenails turn green and fall off, the first thing I would check is, have you been turning spalted wood? So, you know, be mindful of that. Be careful with that stuff as well. Okay, so there's safety things. Like there's an old saying that this machine has no brains, so you have to use yours, and it's very, very true. So,
And while you're talking about different woods, that white willow, which we have in our part of the world, that is one of the very worst. It can kill you.
yeah.
To turn it properly, you should have it frozen, turn it when it's froze.
That's good advice. Yeah, yeah.
But, or have a very good respirator.
What's the wood identification?
Pardon?
What's the wood identification Bible, or the one you can get online that has all the different species of wood and if it's
I saw it, but I don't remember.
you don't even remember what it is? But that one, if you just if you just Google wood identification, it'll be the first thing that'll pop up, and it's an American guy that has done all the species of everything. But he talks about is it grown ethically, you know, but he also talks about the toxicity of it, and that's really worthwhile. And I'm sorry I've forgotten the name of that.
I think that one of the worst exotic woods is bloodwood. It'll kill you too.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you use that stuff wrong just once, it'll haunt you for the rest of your life. So just I don't want to be a real downer, but yeah, that's there we go. So, hey, and if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to interrupt me. I taught for quite a few years, and I'm used to being ignored and interrupted. So whatever works for you. Okay. First thing I want to talk about for finials is for design. So this is I just grabbed a few pages that I've got kicking around, and what I would recommend, if you want, just come and grab a photograph of these, like and use that picture on your phone as a reference, because I've got this one of Drozda's. It's the anatomy of a finial, and we'll get to that right away. But one of the things that in any of our turning, doesn't matter, you can pick up any bowl, any object on that table, and if you've got a 50-50 split between your elements, your audience is going to look at it and say, what was the turner going for? What were they trying to, what were they trying to say with this? So you always want to use the rule of thirds. Break it, like go 1/3, 2/3. Make one thing the dominant and the other one the subordinate. Like the most important and the secondary element in your work. And you're going to have far more successful pieces by using the rule of thirds. Anybody who has a camera that has the grid lines in it, so you got 2 verticals, two horizontals, and 2 vertical lines in there. That's basically to put your center of interest right on those hot spots, and you're going to get far better photographs. And it's just used. The Greeks came up with that, years and years ago. So it's not something that's just recently come by. So using the rule of thirds. One thing on a good finial, like I said earlier, is at all costs avoid flat surfaces, like straight surfaces. They will just lead the viewer's eye to it, and it'll be disruptive. So anytime you can avoid that surface, please, just do that. So as far as the anatomy, I don't know if you can see this, and I had meant to I lent out my big easel and flip chart to an artist friend who obviously didn't get it back to me, or I'd have had it here tonight. But so we're going to talk about the very tip. It's the ornamentation on the very top of your finial, or the very end. You've got the stem, you've got the onion-like body, and then you've got the base. Those are your 3 things that you have to or 4 things you have to deal with, and you're trying to figure out how to make the transition from one to the next. Okay, so those are our four major pieces. Anytime that you can repeat a form, I did one here. I guess I don't have it here. I thought I didn't make it into the box. Oh well, I'll do another one. Anytime that you can repeat a form, in a design world, it's called echoing. And painters do it, photographers do it, songwriters do it. That's why there is a chorus in every song, or not every song, but you hear it over and over again, and all of a sudden, yeah, that belongs there. So whenever you see something in a work of art that you see it more than once, yeah, it was intentional. It's designed to be there. That's just called echoing. So anytime you do, so for example, if you had a top of a finial and it came out and it looked and it had kind of a longer body to it, and then you go down to the bottom and you bring it down like bigger and you just cut it off really quick, they're going to look disjointed. So if you can repeat the pattern that you had at the beginning, you're going to have far more success. Okay. The one thing I like to think about is my designs being a 3-story building that I can stand in front of and look up at it and walk around it and say, okay, in that scale, what do I have to do to make this work? Okay, so thinking large is a good thing. One last thing about design. Going to it, I can't tell you how many photographs I've got on my phone that said, oh, that's a cool form. I take a picture of it. Have I ever sat at my lathe with my phone out and saying, oh, I'm going to try to copy that? Never. I bet you I have 10,000 photographs that are absolutely useless to me. Till I went through my grandson was at it. I go over, because my daughter-in-law starts work really early, and so does my son. So I go over, I'm babysitting there at 6:30 in the morning. He's having his Cheerios, and I'm looking at his bowl, and I still haven't given it back to him, but it's okay. And I really like the OG curve on it. And as soon as I had that in my hand, Patrick says, Grandpa, why are you taking my bowl with you? I said, don't worry about it. I'll get it back to you someday. But holding this at the lathe and being able to see how these forms are is way more successful than a photograph. You can go through a dollar store or a second-hand place and just pick up, like for $1, you can pick up all kinds of glass objects that have really, really nice form in them, and you can bring them into your shop. If you drop them and they break, it's not the end of the world, but you have stuff to work with. So, okay, we're just about done to see. Before I start, I want to talk about, this one I guess will work. Can we have this one for just a second? But what I want to talk about is a secondary bevel. There we go. Okay, so we've got the original grind, and then I got rid of this, and this is just called a secondary grind. And all that does, it allows me to get into a much tighter place with this tool than if I leave that solid material going right to the end. I'm going to have it's going to be a lot harder to get in. I do it for my bowl gouges as well, that you can see that we've got your primary grind and the secondary. So the way I find it easiest to put that on is when you're doing with this. How many of you have this Wolverine sharpening system? Must have a number of people do. Okay, so this is not going to be lost on you. So when you sharpen and you want to put a secondary bevel on it, the way that I found to do this really easy, I just stick my thumb in the pocket back here, and all it does is bumps your tool up this far up on the wheel, and then you can close your eyes and spin it again, and it'll give you that secondary bevel. This one though is done this way because it's so long, but for a bowl gouge, just spin it and then stick your thumb in there, and you've got your secondary bevel. Okay, so it's really quick, and it's repeatable too. Like you're not going to have to fight with it. So we're almost set here. How many of you use a marker before you start sharpening? Yeah, I do that. I've been sharpening for years and years, but I still sharpen. And if you've got the CBN wheels, you can tell by ear. Like you just give it a spin, you put your tool on there. If it's almost whisper silent, you know you've got the right angle. If it's grinding, you gotta move it in or move it out, one way or the other, right? But if it's silent, you know you're good to go. Richard Raffin, who has some wonderful books back over here and a couple of DVDs, it kind of cleared it. The light went on for me when he said, "Sharp is when two clean surfaces meet at a single line." And what he meant is, if you've seen somebody who's tried to sharpen something and you get scallops in it, and you've got scallops on the other side, you try bring those together, you're never going to get one straight line for sharp. What you're going to get is like a zigzag snake line down there. So just bringing two clean surfaces together in a single line will give you sharp. And he says it's really important that as wood turners, we feel what sharp is. Don't, like, not with the metal, but against it, this way. And you can tell in a heartbeat whether you still got an edge there, whether that's sharp or it's not sharp, okay? So that's a really important part. And I have cut myself after hearing his advice on that. A couple last things. How many people use tapered jaws in their chucks? Is there, okay, a few people. I highly recommend these tapered chuck or jaws as opposed to, you know, this format with just the teeth inside. I really find that the tapered jaws just do a far better gripping job. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay, and we're about ready to start. Does anybody here use this just a safe drive? Does anybody? Yeah? A few people do. I just want to demonstrate this because it is worthwhile. So, the one safety thing I didn't talk about, my biggest fear, excuse me, in safety, is being smothered in my sleep by my wife with a pillow. And that's only going to happen to me if I drag dust and wood chips into the house. So that's why coveralls and a turning coat, because yeah, she's threatened to put an end to my wood turning that way if I bring stuff in. So that. Okay, so with a safe drive, I go like this, and it's not gonna cause a problem. Okay, so and if you're turning, or when you're turning, so I can stall that, and it's not a problem. All I have to do is give it a half turn here, snug it back up. Put that down just a little bit. So to find, I am going to use, I'm going to use this chuck for my first. I'm going to do three. I'm going to just do three little finials here tonight. So for anybody new with a caliper, they're really a worthwhile thing. But buy a cheap like this digital one is they're not very expensive, but doctor up the end here, like thin them down and round them over. Don't keep sharp points up here, because what that'll allow you to do is to I went and put my table too close there. Oh, that's gonna throw the, I won't move things. So the one nice thing about using this safe drive as well is I leave mine in my headstock permanently. And you can just throw your chucks right on top. And they won't cause you any grief. They do cause you grief if you're trying to vacuum and you've left your safe drive in there. It doesn't work so good. So then you gotta take your vacuum chuck off and then you gotta, get it to, but I highly recommend them.
Have you got your chuck angle round into that chisel?
No, this is a different. So my tapered one is on this one right here.
Okay.
So I just have one set of tapered jaws. This one I'm not. So these are the ones with the teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I just went with a parallel tenon there. But I'll get to this one in just a minute. Oh. So I'm going to do this. And for anybody who's just getting into turning, one thing I do recommend is when you're using this method of a tenon and you've got the center point on this end done, put a little tension on it before you crank this out, before you snug this up. Like just put a little bit of tension on there. And it is worthwhile to do, even though these are very well machined chucks, it is worthwhile to do both sides, like to snug both of them up. Another thing I'd like to point out, and I don't mean to be too basic here, but as you're turning, it's a great idea if you can get in the habit of bending your knees and moving side to side on your knees, rather than standing like a teapot and tipping from the waist side to, locking your knees and going like this. It's far harder on the body. It's much better if you, bend your knees a little bit and can just shift, your weight from leg to leg and keep your body the way you want rather than tipping over, okay? So again, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So when we're on it, do we have the end of this or am I too far out? Oh, we're good? Okay. Okay. So one thing I do recommend is leaving your tailstock on, or your support as long as you possibly can. Okay? So, sorry, is that come that way? Over. Sorry about that. So one thing I will demonstrate tonight is how to do a catch, and that was a pretty good example of a run back catch there. But yeah, if you pay attention, I'm sure you'll see more of them. Always remember to turn downhill. It's just. It is a... Okay, so, one thing I haven't used... Oh. You know what? Could we lift that up for just a sec? Maybe I'll just go into this other post. Let me shut this thing up. I'm going to come out of there and into this one. I don't know exactly how to do this without blinding everybody.
You're good.
That's okay there, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Step it down just a little bit. There you go.
Okay. Okay, I'll try that. Yeah. Okay, let's give this a try. Oh, right, tools. Okay, so so far, what I did my rough with a roughing gouge. So everybody's probably got these in different sizes. This is one that I was lucky enough to find here at Canadian Woodworkers Garage Sale years ago, and I think I still have a lot of sharpening to do on this. So it's one of my favorites. Then after that, I used a straight bowl gouge. So I showed you that earlier with the double bevel. And this, I believe, I think that's 3/8, not a 1/2 inch. I think it's a 3/8. 7/16, because this I think is a 3/8. So now what I'm going to switch to is this is a tool made by Thompson Tools, but it's a Cindy Drozda kind of signature model, if you want to get hoity-toity, whatever they. But what it is, it's a really narrow. Can I show this? It's got a really narrow flute to it. Okay, and there's enough material in behind it that you can do some really nice fine details with it. So this is the one that I use primarily for any of these. Okay, so that, yeah, I believe that's a 3/8, considered a spindle gouge. So I heard it here at one of our meetings. A guy that belonged to the Vancouver Club a few years ago was saying that if you're new to turning, and it's way too easy to get focused on what this part of the tool is doing. He says, watch the backhand, the hand that's controlling it. Okay. So does that hand raise? Does it raise up? Does it roll? Like that's where your control of your tool comes from, is the backhand. So try not to focus on this. I know it's a little bit more difficult in this situation to see what I am doing, but that's what we want to be focused on, is the backhand. So these cuts are basically a lift, and a roll to big. There's only 3 cuts as wood turners. There's beads, coves, and flats. Okay, we're trying to avoid the flats, so basically we're working with a bead, which is a curve either this way or this way, and a cove, either that way or that way. And remember, you're always cutting downhill. So we just eliminated, 30% of all the knowledge we had to do, because we're just going to work with beads and coves. So, and that's why this is such a worthwhile project. So, just starting, pick up your cut, roll and bring it in. So to do this concave, another bit of a cove is I'm starting at the top and just scooping out with this. Okay. Okay. Tailstock doesn't want to be there. That's okay. So, yeah, what I'm going to do with that is you're going to pop this off. And I'll just so you can see the turning on that end cap.
What kind of work are you working with here?
What's that? Oh, that's all maple. Yeah, yeah. And I do have some additional blanks here. If anybody'd like to do some, I don't know if this Chuck is going to do this or not.
So is your spindle gouge one of the Cindy Rosa ones, or did you build that yourself?
Nope, it's I don't know who's selling them, but yeah, it is a Droste. I don't know if Hosluck was doing that in Saskatoon. Like, oh yeah.
A detail gouge.
What's that?
I have one of those detail gouges.
Oh, Hosluck's.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this one is a Droste, but I think he was connected with her stuff, or I don't know how.
Yeah, it could have been.
I don't know how that works, but yeah. So again, putting stuff on here. If you're going to do it in the square like this, I'm moderately certain that this is square. Not 100% certain. Actually, it probably isn't when I look at this. So what I'm going to do is take that out, try a different one, because I did true these up on my table saw.
If you mark one end only, that's all you need to do.
Well, because of I was planning to flip around. I'll show you one other one that I wanted to have both centers marked. But yeah, you're quite right. You can get by with it. So let's snug this up.
Must be hard to prevent the splinters in the cuts.
No, okay. I guess I didn't spend much time cleaning that up, but I'll do that with this one. So there's aggressive cuts and there's fine cuts. If you look at what I've got here, this is some pretty aggressive cutting chips. Okay, if they come off kind of like feathery, like a hare's size, you know that's a finishing cut. Okay? Yes.
What's the difference between the carbide tool and those tools?
The carbide tools aren't as fun to work with. Let's put it that way. Because they're to me they're just like drop them on your tool rest, stick them in. Drop them on your tool rest, stick them in. And so I'm not like I did buy a little set to do these. I haven't used them yet. Like I've seen people demonstrate with them and stuff, but I'm just not a big fan of.
One of the major differences is the way that the steel actually affects the wood. The carbide scrapers are scrapers.
Yeah. Okay.
The cutting tools he's using are cutting tools. They're not scraping tools. So the action he's doing is cutting the wood, slicing it, where the carbide would be scraping it. So it's a little tougher to get a real smooth cut with a scraper.
Yeah.
I don't think they're sharp either. I don't think you can get carbide sharp.
Yeah, like they do. You know, you can get some that you can spin like 4 different. You know, give it a, or even 3 different spins. Like loosen it up,
Yeah.
spin it. So, but yeah, there's no right or wrong way for turning. Like if you, like I've got a. Okay, so I guess I didn't bring it. Last time I was in Lloydminster, I know a bunch of you know Elio Menace. I bought a 1/2-inch round nose scraper from him, and whatever material he made that out of, it's just like a hot knife through butter. I've never seen a tool do that, and I told him last time I was back, I went back and saw him after Christmas, and it was just like he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So, but it was an impressive tool. So, but no, there's no right or wrong when it comes to if you're scraping using a round nose scraper or whatever gets the job done for you. Absolutely use it. I definitely don't want to discourage anybody from using what works for them. Okay. Quite a few years ago, the club had Jimmy Clues in, and one of Jimmy's big recommendations was turn as fast as you are comfortable to turn. And so right now, I've been like anywhere from, you know, I guess this thing maxes out at 2,600 RPM. But so I'm somewhere in between the 2,000 RPM and 2,600 RPM, somewhere in there, because I know that my audience is not in any danger of getting picked off. That like to lose something like this, I'm pretty confident. So, but I'm just gonna get rid of that for right now. I'm not cocky confident, but I'm moderately confident. Let's put it that way. So, but. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the rough and gouge. I'll take this down, and then I want to quickly do like a finial, kind of start to finish, and then I would like to do. I have a little pot that I have a finial. I'd like to show you Cindy's method of holding on to that, so you can have it all fitting properly. So. Okay, so I'm going to turn next to my, I should. Hey, I'm going to do one little have a little demo here, dealing with turning spheres. And whenever we're doing finials, it's quite often that we're doing a sphere, but in a finial you're usually just doing one half of it. Okay, and what I like to do, and it is tapered here, so we'll live with that. But we take the distance or the width, the thickness of our material, and I'm going to make a little mark and basically visualize a square around that. So that's where my sphere is going to drop inside that square right there, if you can see that. And then what I'm going to do is mark the center of that sphere. And what I'm doing there, that's going to be the center. And because I've switched to like a detail gouge that's got more meat on it here, so it's less likely to chatter than that little Cindy Drozda one. And I find it turns spheres quite nicely. But because it's so long here, I have to drop my tool rest down, and I have to hold this down at quite a low angle. A few years, well, the whole concept of ABC when it comes to turning, anchor, ride your bevel, and then do your cut, nothing will teach you quicker than this thing. Because if you come in like this, you're SOL. Like it's gonna grab really, really quickly, right? So, yeah, I really, excuse me, I really believe in that ABC. Excuse me. So one thing when we're doing a sphere is that we never cut it right out unless you're starting out to build a ball, a sphere. You never cut it right out. You want to leave. You need to leave something to grab on. So I'm not cutting this right out of here. But when I look at this and I see this line, I don't know if you can see them both. These two lines, I've got to bring this out just a little bit to. That would be where the bottom of my ball, and that's where the top of the ball would be. But those are going to be, that's if it went right, if the sphere carried right around to nothing. But it won't be because we want to hang on to this. So, excuse me. So, we're still too high. So the reason I put the center line on there is we never want to touch that. Think about that top of that ball. You never want to have a flat spot on the top of the ball. So we're just going to leave it there. And I'm just, same thing, rolling my So once you get it moderately close to round, and the one thing I remember being out at Stu's when Mike Hosluck was there instructing us, he said whenever you're doing a sphere, stop and take a look at it this way instead of just like this. So look at it this way, and you're going to tell right away what you have to do to change that. And yeah, I put that line right there, but because I was working on a tapered slope, by the time I got this side down, now I've got to redefine it a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, what I'm going to do with this is I want to put a little bit of a cove in here, just, and that was a nice run out there. Because I didn't anchor, I didn't catch my bevel. I just stuck the point right on, and it just shot because it's tapered. It just skates down, and that's a design opportunity that I'll live with. So I'll get rid of that and try again. Did it again. So if you can see that feather-like stuff coming off there, I know without even looking at that, that's going to be a fairly nice clean cut when you have that. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there's I'd say very little tear out right there, but. Okay, so we have two choices here. Yeah, I think I'll take this option. I'm going to go back to my original spindle demonstration. Or not spindle. This is a spindle demonstration. I'm going to step away from that and I'm going to go back to the finials. So I'm going to take this. One thing I do notice different is this one does not have my one way is one step bigger than this, and it has more RPM, and I really notice the slower speed. It just handles a little bit differently. So. So as I said earlier, the more you can leave this tailstock in place and leave this butt supporting, that's perfectly. I mean, that's better. I'd highly recommend that you get in the habit of shutting your lathe right off before you readjust your tool rest and stick it in there with it running. The excitement might be okay for some people, but I don't recommend it. It's much better to shut things down and replace things or move things. So I'm going to try. What I'm going to try to do is that echoing concept. One thing I should point out is whenever you're turning on something that's quite thin, is to your tool puts pressure on that from the cutting side over, and if you can counter that with you kind of have to counter that with your fingers. You bring in your fingers either from underneath or over top. Underneath gives you so you can still do a cut here without it moving, but just having. You don't have to put a ton of pressure on there. If you are turning at 3200, a lined glove is really important because that'll get so hot. Even that little thing will get very hot. So, just gonna knock this off. Whoop! There ends that part of that because I'm not gonna redo that. I got too aggressive there. Forgot that I didn't have a tapered jaw on there. There we go. So, this one. Like that? Sorry. Yeah, before it was over here. That's probably better, eh? That's a brand new thing to me. I haven't seen that light before. But I'll just set this around. So this was an attempt at echoing the top form and the bottom form. I was not, I mean it's just, you'll get the idea there.
It's a demo.
It's a demo, yes, exactly. It's exactly. And it'll never go farther than this room.
Where does that black light come from? Where'd you get that?
I bet you it was an Amazon. Does anybody know where this one came from? It was just on the lathe when I came this morning. Nevin, yeah. But I think
Amazon.
I'm just judging by the Chinese writing on it.
They're $12 on Amazon. They're sewing machine lights.
Sewing machine.
$12 on Amazon.
Yeah, no, it's really worth it.
They're great on the desktop.
Yeah. Hey, another thing that I want to point out that Hosluk talked to us about at Stu's, he said, never ever use this part of your hand as a hammer. Like, don't do this because that will cut your turning life so short. He said, yeah, and I believe him. So I keep right there. I have a round maul that has in my shop. So last thing that I want to demonstrate here is something that I've never tried before. That's what's that? No. I'm moderately confident, like I said, not to worry. The one tool that I did.
What are you looking for?
Oh, the big key. I think I went and put it back because I didn't remember I had mine.
He is, isn't he? He's on. I love watching him. He's so much fun.
There we go.
Do you ever use skews when you're slimming that wood down?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and I have one along. And if you really want, no, again, I'm moderately comfortable using the skew, but I like that little Cindy Joe's tool. The skew will absolutely give you less that you have to sand. Now that I put this on here, I should have done something first. So what I've done here is I've got
Your mic?
Excuse me.
Microphone?
Oh, thank you. So what I should have done here before I stuck it back on here, but I'm not going to take it off. I've got a little hollow form here. It's got a straight cut or moderately straight cut going in, and then it's beveled. It's got a beveled face on it, on an edge here. And the reason Cindy Droza talks about that, she says when your lid is off your box, it doesn't look like it's just been lopped off like a guillotine. It's got some purpose for being there. So then this is the corresponding piece that will go with it. So and this piece I cracked earlier today, or I discovered a crack in it. So I'm not too worried about it, but So this is not a jam chuck. This is a lid, and obviously you don't want a finial with that much pressure on. But for tonight, we got that much pressure. So if you don't like it, go home. Yeah, you can get your money back. No problem. And you can see my, I don't know if you can see the crack in this this maple. And again, I'm going to be very gentle here, so you guys in the front don't worry. I think we're under control. But what I'm going to do is I want to show you her method of finishing from a hollow form, from a box, to a finial. And so all I've done is just jam that in, and I brought my tailstock up, and I'm going to round this. Maybe I won't go crazy.
What was her last name?
Drozda, D-R-O-Z-D-A. D-R-O-Z-D-A. Drozda. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, no, make it a functional box. So you can put all your valuables. Yeah, you can put all your valuables in there. Yeah. Nobody will be able to find them. Yeah. So all I'm going to do here is take this down. I hope. So I know I'm at round, but that's not what this, that's not really what we're worried about here. We're not worried about what we're going for. What I want to do is take this curve that you see here and follow it right through to the base of my finial. Okay, so I want to make that one smooth. That's the theory. Okay, so if this goes sideways, you know the theory, you can do it for yourself. And I'm back to using the bowl gouge with the secondary grind on it. Gotta get in here just a little closer. Still. So I'm still cutting downhill on the finial part of it, but now I've got to try transition from the box. And the box is chattering a little bit. It's sorry? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Well, now that you can see what I'm doing, I won't stop. I was going to stop, but I guess. Okay. So, just for the sake of time, I have no idea how we're doing for time, but what I'm going to do is I just want to demonstrate this. Normally what I would do now is taper this off so I could do my finial starting back up here. But what I'm going to do is, because this is, it's not really it's a jam chuck. You can call this box a jam chuck, but it's not what I would call really safe jammed in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tape it in place. Get rid of the tailstock, and
What's your reason for getting rid of the tailstock? So you gotta push it in?
no, it would be to do a finial like the finial makers make finials, where they start at the end and they work all their way down without a tailstock at all, and that's fine. But I wouldn't want to do it with this much. This is more of just a demo that it's to make the transition from here, like so that you know that when you pop that lid off and pop it back on, you're gonna have a nice fit, and it'll look good. So the only thing we need to do with this, and I'm not really certain whether this is going to do it or not, and I just wrapped that tape the back wrong way around, I just realized. So if it goes back there, it shouldn't hurt you. But, so, well, it'll be fine. It's only masking tape. Yeah. Ooh, I never thought. I bet you this is like pretty expensive. Oh, okay. I think I better quit right now. No, but the whole idea here is that you could start working on your end, do a finial, bring it up, pop that out, and have your finial lid fitting exactly the way you want it without. Normally, what I would do is, for example, for these, you do the. Let's see if I can do it here. So you would do a tenon on here that's the same size as your hole in your ball. And all you're doing is when you've got a big chunk of wood like this, you just use a pair of calipers and bring it down to that size and then part it off, and it doesn't matter how ugly it is inside this ball, nobody's going to see that. So it's just a tenon going into a drilled hole, and that's how you end your finial. So, but yeah, but with a box lid like this, it's a little bit different. It's a different game. Like you're trying to make those curves flow together like they belong there. So I think any of you who are planning to be around for when we do the Learn to Turn in later this month, we'll do a couple of finials that will go on Christmas tree ornaments. So I'll just bring the hollowed up balls for you. So I think that's it. Yes.
You have a pretty good idea of what you want your finial to look like before you start? Prior to you just
well, I should maybe pass. So I'm a bit of a pack rat as a teacher. How many of you use Pinterest? What? Pinterest? Okay. I have like 15,000 pins there. So it's some absurd number. But I bet you I have 300 finials. So those are the ones that I just picked that I thought, okay, I really like those designs. It's really easy to make a finial look bad. And if you come down and then you get it too fat too quick, and then bring it in and it looks like it's heavy, yeah. So you just you want to keep your curved lines as flowing as you possibly can. And but yeah, you do have to start off, because as soon as you commit to whatever shape you make that. Whatever shape you make that detail on the end. Right here. Right there, right here. Oh, this one here. Oh, just some of those Christmas tree ornaments, like that I passed around earlier. You know, if you do a ball with a little pin on the end, and you want a bigger ball down here, then you kind of need to know that before you jump into it. But there's so much freedom in doing these and just learning how to control your tools. This is $2 worth of maple or whatever, right? So, and I have 6 or 7 of them left here, 8, if people want to grab them. It would make my pack out, my load out much easier if I didn't have to worry about those. So if you want one, grab one. The lathe, yeah. Pardon me? Yeah. So, yeah. So any questions before we get on to coffee and show and tell? I don't even know how we're doing for time, but normally what I would use is shell wax has but this is just this is a leather wax. Wax is wax. Cindy Droza just uses it's even a floor wax that she uses, like just to put it on and yeah.
Is anybody here using that UV finish?
Is anybody using a UV finish?
UV, you put one coat on and put another UV light for about 2 minutes.
Oh.
And it's dry.
Is anybody experimented with a UV finish that they have to cure with a ultraviolet light? Yeah?
My son used to use the Carolines and making his.
I've got
It works, but I don't know how long it lasts. It'll yellow.
Yeah.
Apparently, from what I read on it, it'll yellow.
Right.
I've seen it on a couple of internet sites, but I've never seen anything that's actually done.
Yeah, well, quarter was about $3, so it's very expensive. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is if they get a little bubble in epoxy work,
Yeah.
they'll fill it and then put the UV on for 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, okay. And
So
cures
you
it.
don't have to mix and fill.
Right. Yeah.
I have with the UV on for a few minutes because it will bubble. You just touch it with some heat.
Yeah. Any other questions about finials that you have in mind before we move on today? I'll throw things back. No, I'll throw things back over to Neville then, and I will get.
There you go.
This month, actually, where's Jerry? Jerry. I was very inspired by Jerry last month. He made 2 eggs, and so I decided I was going to make eggs because I'm trying to get good at anything. So I made a bunch of eggs, and so that's my eggs. I tried to make a dozen, but I didn't quite make it.
You want to sell them in the U.S., they'll get a lot of money down.
Oh, and I went over to Bert's, and Bert helped me out with my eggs. So I had this a jig. I said at the dinner the other night, I said that I was making eggs, and Bert said, I have a jig for that. I was thinking, yes, okay. So I went over and got a jig, and so that's helping with my eggs. I also made an apple.
That one.
So this is my first apple. I know it looks like an apple, but I had a Macintosh, so this isn't quite Macintosh. But I guess somebody said if it looks like an apple, it's an apple. So that was my month. So
How's it taste?
Coloring
exactly.
That's a little woody.
Coloring on that is perfect.
Okay, next.
I want that one.
I made another segment with epoxy bowls, so I was pretty pleased with the last one, so I thought I'd try something different. The main difference is the epoxy ring here. I poured 3 different colors into it, and then with the epoxy, the slow cast epoxy, you wait for about 17 hours, and then you can stir them. And I was hoping to get lines, but instead I got sort of a mushy looking sort of thing, but it looks very nice in the sunshine. So.
It looks good. Like.
Yes. Yeah. So
How do you pour the epoxy ring?
I get a mold and I make the outside diameter match what I need here, and then turn a piece of wood from the inside and coat it with that red plastic material, and then you just pour it around there in that hollow. And when you finish, you can tap it out, and yeah.
That's poured separately.
That's poured separately, and the only thing you have to do is smooth one side of your epoxy ring when you're building the thing up, and you put that on, with epoxy to the wood below it, and then you smooth the next side, and then epoxy the next layer on. Then all the other layers on here are just done with glue. So. Okay.
So I made my first leg stand. It's mystery wood. I have no idea what it is. I think the base might be birch, but it was in the shop. So, and it's pretty close to the measurements that are in the newsletter. And I think it looks pretty good. And I too am kind of working with epoxy, so I've got a little medallion. I was thinking maybe I could make a finial and turn this into a lid, now that I know how to make finials after tonight. So what's interesting about this one is that the epoxy button on here was poured separately in a silicone cupcake container, and just a little copper powder in it. But to make it so it kind of shines, I had to put foil in behind it when I put the nugget on top of the cherry. And nods to Bert for giving me that texturing tool. So that's what. Yeah.
Hi, it's also my first wig stand, and it's made out of reclaimed maple. It was used for transport large stuff. In a way, now that I see there's a wig stand, I wonder if my head is too big.
No, it's not. There's a tolerance thing to it.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, it was fun. I think I'd like to make a few more. So, I don't know where I give it to.
Because people with big heads wear wigs too.
Oh, it's lacquer. It's a lacquer finish. There's no stain or anything. It's just natural. But with there's four coats lacquer.
Here, I'll hold your pieces. You want to show them one at a time?
Sure. This is I had an apple tree cut down, and this was a crotch piece of my apple tree. So I thought, well, I'll just turn it and see what comes out. So just a little decorative bowl, I guess, with some light edge. And the other day, my wife said, you know what, why don't you make me some snack bowls? So this is hers. This is whoever comes. This is just a little bowl I found at a piece of wood in my shop. I don't look too sure what it is, but it was all spalted, and so I kind of left a live edge on the top and just turned it. And this is my snack bowl. And this one is just that Manitoba maple. And they're all finished. These are finished with just beeswax. It's all on these. And these bowls have got the general salad bowl finish on them.
Nice work.
Hi. So it's just a walnut segment bowl with spectra plywood cut in segments. These segments were 12 segments, and these were cut to 6 so that it would cut more rings to bring out more color on that. So, and an epoxy bottom ring. So.
Well, how do you do the change of colors? It just
In here? In here? So it's a special plywood called Spectraply, and comes in this one, Exotic Woods in Burlington, Ontario.
And they're 2x2 pieces, and they're 18 inches long. They have them longer too. But I glued it together, and then I want to see how it machined like that, right? So I got another piece. I tried it, and I liked it better. I didn't like round it, so instead of circles, it came like U's all the way around. So it's kind of cool. So
How expensive?
this wood is fairly expensive, yeah. So I have a daughter that lives in London, Ontario, and I was, looking at that wood because we've used it before with pens, pen blanks and stuff like that. But I wanted something a bit bigger, right? So we went down to visit her there. We just carry on luggage. And so I stopped in from there on the way to the airport in Toronto and bought some and put 2 18-inch long pieces like that in my carry-on bag. Got to the airport in Toronto. Security takes me aside and they saying I can't take it on the plane because it's a weapon. It's a weapon. It's a bat kind of thing. And so I go, well, Jesus, So anyways, I showed them what I was going to do it with, and then they got some other guy there, and he approved it, so I got to bring it home. But yeah, it's expensive wood though.
I thought you were KG.
Yeah. Thanks.
So the other day, Diane came over and wanted some help making eggs. And so I thought I should bring one of my eggs. This is an epoxy cutoff from Steve McMillan. He was going to throw this in the garbage. And I got 4 corners out of it, and I got 1 egg that came out really nice, and the other ones were practice. But I had 1 egg, and I couldn't just leave it in a bowl by itself. So I put it in this little bowl.
Nice.
I'm not done yet. So what does this look like?
Fire.
That's not a fire hydrant.
A puppy pot.
It's an urn. It's not a fire hydrant, it's an urn.
I thought it was a puppy pot.
Dog piss on those.
Yeah, I want one for my balcony.
Anyway, a neighbor, a friend of mine, his father was, I think he might have passed away now, but he was a firefighter, and so they were looking for ideas. So I made a firefighter urn, or a fire hydrant urn for them, and the family hasn't decided yet whether they want to take it or not, but they were really impressed. But if anybody's tried to make an urn like the fire hydrant, all of these pieces here are fitted to the barrel, and you got to make a jig. You cut the coves to match something that's already turned. I had more fun making the jig than I had making the urn.
Yeah.
But it came out, I think, not too bad, and I'm going to make another one just because I can. But I might have to do a demonstration on the jig for cutting the cove to match 2 pieces of ground wood together, because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes, this is one of my attempts at epoxy and a burl of poplar.
Turned out well. Yeah.
It's got a product called Water Locks for a finish on it, and I'm very happy with that product. It's expensive, but it's good. Yeah, it never shows any lines or marks or overlaps or anything. And this is a small one, a smaller burl, and
So did you rough turn that before you did the epoxy, so you didn't use a bunch of epoxy?
I did, yes.
And then just take the hell out of it or whatever?
No, I actually put it in a mold,
Okay.
but I did pre-turn because it was one that didn't have a lot of big through inclusions, which are tough to work with. You use so much epoxy.
Yeah.
Is that water loss food safe?
Pardon?
Is that food safe, that water loss?
Yeah, yeah, you can, the cheapest place I found it was on Amazon, and Stu just ordered some.
No, I didn't, I canceled.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I canceled. I was going to, and then
Yeah.
I bought it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a couple of things with me tonight. I made this spatula. It's not much for turning, it's just the handle. The turn. It's a piece of kumar. Or that's our kumar.
Sorry, Mike, you're losing your mic there. It's just too far from your mouth.
There, how's that?
There we go.
Yeah. Camara is this wood, and it's apparently it's the third hardest wood in the world. Bert telling me it's quite hard. It's kind of a simple turn. It's just I just did it like a spindle. It's hooked on both ends, and this is about 2.5 inches wide, and it's 1 inch thick. And like I said, all I did was turn the handle. The rest of it, they cut out on the bandsaw. And after what I cut off, I made a couple of other little scrapers with the pieces that I took out of it. And I'm not one for wasting wood, so I figured I might as well make use of what I got out of it. So anyway, I think they're pretty neat. It's pretty good stuff. Doing what I'm going to do with it, it's going to go in the kitchen here tomorrow, I guess. I told the wife she can't use it till after I show it, so she gets it tomorrow. We'll see how far it goes.
Where did you get it?
Where I don't know. It was a fellow in Edmonton that was getting rid of a bunch of wood, and Bert and Keith and I went over there one day and helped him get rid of a bunch of stuff and filled my shelf. So I finally felt I had a use for a piece. So I'm happy with how this turned out. So I think it'd be a good one.
Finishes nicely.
I'm sorry?
You got it really smoothed out nicely.
It sanded out pretty easy, really, yeah. All I did was cut it on the bandsaw, and then I went on the belt sander and pretty much finished it up with that. So it went pretty easy, really. Here it is, and I got another one here. I've actually showed this before. It was in work in progress, and it's black poplar burl with. I've actually ended up with 3 pours of epoxy in this. First one wasn't so successful. Had to give it a little more, and it still come up short, so I had to give it a 3rd pour. The lid is the core that I took out of it. Yeah. The lid is the core that I took out of that when I poured it. So it's all from the same piece of wood, and it ended up with a couple of pours of epoxy also, and flat coat to finish it. Yeah, no, I was just going to say the addition that I put on this is pistachio shells to give it a bit of character, and then that's the first time I've done anything with the pistachio shell, and I'm really impressed with how it turned out. I think it's got some really neat character to it. And I got a little bit in the lid too, so.
You just bury the shells in the epoxy.
Sorry?
You bury shells in the epoxy?
Yeah.
Clear epoxy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this was colored.
Yeah.
And then I did a flood coat on the outside of it on top to finish it off. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
More epoxy. This is a walnut and epoxy kind of large platter. It's got Osmo finish on it.
What finish?
Osmo? Yep.
Very nice.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Detail on cut it off, or you?
This was an offcut from a table I made. This was the end of the table, and it was just a jagged piece off the end. That's why it's all jagged here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you left it as is?
Yep. And then I poured it actually in a square form, and that's some of the offcuts that Bert gets is the corners of the epoxy.
Thank you.
Normally they don't allow me to have these mics in my a piece of willow, It was a half log, turned this way, and the finish on it is just a white bottom poly and then just buffed out. Really nice wood to turn, and it's, you know, as you can see, great grain in it. The second item I have is lidded box. It's not going to be like that. I haven't finished the inside yet. Basically, I'm just waiting for the wood to decide which way it wants to warp. And right now it's a wood turner's finish, which is pretty amazing. But then again, if you just want to pick it up off the table, the whole thing comes with it, right? So the sister to this, I didn't bring with me, but I did the Sorby embellishing tool. One way on this one, on the other one I've raised a ridge here and a ridge there, and finished it the same way with the knurling tool, but I made the embellishing first and then went in afterwards to reduce the diameter between those two items. This is finished with tongue oil, and I believe it was Manitoba maple. And it's still wet. So this one is just a scrap piece of wood I found in the box, and it was cedar wood. And I had absolutely no blinking idea what I was going to do with it. And then I just thought, oh, well, enough wood there to turn to make a little wing bowl. The only problem, as you may see, or have seen, is on the inside of the outside of the bowl effect there, there's nice little grooves in there. They were purposely put there, but I just couldn't get them out. I tried umpteen times, and eventually I'm saying to myself, I'm getting too thin with material, so I'll cut my losses, just sand it. Cedar is not very favourable to tool pressure, so it's great on the other surfacing though. And again, another piece of scrap wood that just made a little, made a little weed pot, that's it. So I just made that little weed pot out of that scrap spalted birch. And again, it's finished with tongue oil. The reason why I've just been using tongue oil, because I've had it for about 1.5 years, and I figure I should maybe start using it, make some room for some more. Anyway, and that's my deal for that. Thanks very much.
So I've got a couple of, well, 5 Harry Potter wands, and these are done with one-way drill jig that just holds your drill, and you can just punch in whatever. So I think on these ones, I don't know, I think I probably did 7 different holes and just lined them up and then just ground them out, and then just used the texturing of a round bit, and just threw some black brushed black airbrush paint on, and yeah, they work pretty good. The one that I was trying to remember what this is, it's actually a pecan, and so these all have a wax finish on them. And then what I did was textured this and stuck butcher block oil on it, and I was really surprised to see what kind of a difference it made. It's all one piece. Well, this cap is a second piece, but the carved part and the wand is all one piece. So I was really quite surprised at what the difference between wax and butcher block oil did for a finish, or for a change. So I was happy with that. There we go.
Is I turned the tenon and put it onto the waste block backwards. As I was working my way up, about 3/4 of the way up, I managed to get a real nice catch. But since it's segmented, it was easy. You just cut the ring off and put a new one on. But it turned out okay in the end.
Beautiful.
And some of you fellas might have all kinds of scrap wood around your shop you don't know what to do with. I just gather mine up every once in a while. It doesn't matter what it is, what color it is, as long as it's 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches long, I'll get 1 or 2 pieces out of it. I throw all the pieces together and that's the effect that I get. So don't throw your segments out. It's a knitting bowl.
Yeah,
I see that you have a cutout on the side.
yeah, it's for knitting here, yarn bowl.
I don't knit, but apparently it works.